When we look at global tensions today, it may feel like rivalry between powerful nations is something new. But more than a century ago, the world was already moving toward one of the largest conflicts in history. Before the outbreak of World War I, the early 1900s were dominated by powerful empires. On the surface, Europe appeared stable. Trade was expanding, industries were growing, and technology was transforming economies. But beneath that calm surface, tensions were quietly building. One of the strongest powers was the United Kingdom. Its empire stretched across continents, including India, large parts of Africa, and territories around the world. In fact, nearly 1/4 of the global population lived under British rule. And such power naturally created competition. At the same time, a new industrial giant was rising in Europe. Germany. After unifying in 1871, Germany quickly became one of the continent's strongest economies and military powers. Its industries were producing steel, machines, and weapons at remarkable speed. And with that growing strength came ambition. Germany wanted greater influence in global politics and colonial territories. Meanwhile, another major power, France, still carried deep resentment after losing territory to Germany decades earlier. The rivalry between these two nations remained tense. To the east stood the massive Russian Empire. It stretched across Eastern Europe and Asia and saw itself as the protector of Slavic nations, especially in the Balkans. Now, the Balkans were becoming one of the most unstable regions in Europe. Because another empire, the Ottoman Empire, was weakening after centuries of rule. As its control declined, smaller nations in the region began pushing for independence. Nationalist movements grew stronger, and powerful countries started supporting different sides. And this is where the situation became even more complex. To secure their positions, European powers formed military alliances. One group, known as the Triple Entente, brought together the United Kingdom, France, and the Russian Empire. Opposing them was the Triple Alliance, made up of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. These alliances were meant to protect countries. Leaders believed strong partnerships would prevent war. But they actually made the system more fragile. Because if one country entered a conflict, its allies would also be drawn in. A small dispute could suddenly involve multiple nations. And that wasn't the only concern. Across Europe, countries were rapidly expanding their militaries. Governments invested heavily in armies, navies, and weapons. Military service became common, and national pride was closely tied to military strength. By the early 20th century, Europe had become highly armed. Powerful empires were competing for influence. Alliances were dividing nations into opposing camps, and nationalist tensions were rising in unstable regions. Historians often describe Europe at this moment as a powder keg. Everything was already in place. Rivalries, armies, alliances, political tension. All that remained was a spark. And in 1914, that spark arrived with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. But here's the real question. Was that single assassination truly